Creativity is a silence in your brain followed by an outburst of various brain waves that connects different parts of your brain, creating new insights. And what happens in the brain when it comes to creativity was completely unknown to us until the moment modern technology came along. And this thing in my head, on my head, you might be wondering, is this some weird Hungarian fashion accessory? My answer is no, it is not. It is a brainwave device that measures and visualizes real-time my brain activity. So I don't know if you signed up for this morning, but you are going to take a way too intimate look into me. Because if we switch the views, that is my brain, and my brain activity visualized real time. And as you can see, my brain is very, very busy right now. And there are different colorful areas lighting up all around my brain. And those different colors are actually different brainwaves, different electromagnetic signals that fire from different parts of the brain. And so I want to demonstrate you how a creative outburst may happen. What I am going to demonstrate is not going to be an actual creative outbreak because I cannot create that right here on stage, but I'm just going to act like something like that is happening. So for that, I am going to stand here in silence, not moving around. So my brain is going to calm down a little bit, and then I'm going to jump around a little bit, and you will, in theory, see a firework happening in my brain. None of this may happen because I am freaking out right now way too much. Thank you. So my brain actually may not calm down. Thank you very much. But let's give it a try. So 5 seconds of silence, and then I will start jumping around. Okay, really, this is really what happens in your brain when you have a creative outburst. Now, the reason why I cannot actually demonstrate a creative outburst right here on stage, there are 2 reasons for that. Number 1 is that this device, while it is very, very cool, it only measures the surface of my brain. It cannot look very deep inside my brain. And the second reason why I cannot show a creative outburst right here on stage is that you cannot really time them. I cannot force myself to have a creative outburst now. It usually comes when you least expect it. But this is what my entire presentation is going to be all about. What actions can you take so that you have more creative outbursts, specifically for content creation? So what you saw in my brain are various brain waves. These are electronic signals that your brain fires, and the various colors and various wavelengths are associated with different mental states. Some of them are associated with insight, concentration, relaxation, visualization, deep sleep, and more. So I mentioned I cannot generate a sudden insight right here on stage, but I wanted to show you a real moment when someone did have a real insight and it was videotaped. And maybe you have seen this moment before. This is Taylor Swift on a talk show with various other celebrities and actors. And what you will see is that this actor jokingly says, "I'm hoping to get in a Taylor Swift music video." And that gave an insight to Taylor Swift, and you will see her facial expression. I would have loved to look inside her brain at that moment. She literally had a creative outburst, and months later, in the music video, she did actually include all this paper. So, while you are watching that, watch out for her face. Keep on looking at her. Don't look at me, because I'm going to take this off and fix my hair.
I'm hoping to get in a Taylor Swift music video.
Yeah.
I'm hoping.
There you go. Yeah. Did you?
Don't you sweat it, baby. It's alright.
What I love about her facial expression is that you can kind of look inside her brain, because then what happens when you have a creative outburst, your vision is kind of not needed anymore. So to process vision around us, that takes a lot of brain activity, that takes a lot of cognitive load. And when we have a creative outburst, we typically try to look at something that is very plain and not moving around us. Hence, she is looking away, and the rest of her brain overtook her brain, creating this creative insight. So I really love this clip. I am super happy that it was videotaped. So let me introduce you to the brain. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about our brain and then how the different areas of the brain can be triggered to create creative insights. On a high level and very, very simplified, your brain has two different areas. One of the general areas is sitting more inside your brain. It is called the automatic brain. And one of the more general areas is sitting outside of your brain. It is called the conscious brain. It's not actual parts, really, of your brain, more like different systems that rely on different parts of your brain. But for simplicity, that is how we are referring to them. The automatic brain is unconscious, it is emotional, and it requires little or no effort. So for instance, when you're on a diet and you know you should not be eating your favorite sweet, and you still eat it, it is your automatic brain taking over. The other part of your brain is called the conscious brain, that is intentional, rational, and effortful. And that is the part of your brain that tells you do not eat that sweet because you are on a diet. So a little bit, there is always a tug of war going on between the two parts of your brain, and they react to very, very different things. So how did we end up with two brains? The thing is that throughout evolution, we didn't always have two brains. If you look at this visualization of evolution, you can see that this gentleman right here, he still doesn't really have a forehead. We started to have a forehead a lot later during our evolution, and we developed the forehead literally to place somewhere this more conscious part of our brains. Another thing about this conscious part of the brain is that you do not always have it throughout your entire life. So what you see here is the brain of a 5-year-old, preteen, teen, and 20-year-old. And the redder and greener the area is, the less developed it is, and the bluer it is, the more developed it is. So what you can see that even a 20-year-old has some green areas right here in front, right where this conscious brain is. And so what it means to you is that you did something stupid at age 21. That's okay, you can blame evolution. But if you did something stupid after age 21, it's time to rethink your decisions. By the way, this is not my research. I really would like to shout out to this gentleman. His name is Daniel Kahneman. He passed away 2 years ago. He wrote this fantastic book, Thinking Fast and Slow, fast referring to this automatic inner brain, and slow referring to this conscious outer brain. He did win a Nobel Prize for his research, as well as he got a presidential medal from Barack Obama. So, now that we know a little bit about the brain, the way my section is structured is that first I am going to go through 3 creativity levers that impact this inner automatic brain. And then we will go through 3 creativity levers that impact this outer, more conscious brain. So get ready, we are going to have 2 times 3 sessions. The first recommendation to influence creativity in this automatic brain may sound a little controversial, and that is, do the dishes. And let me quote a very creative person, one of my favorite creative persons out there. She said, "The best time for planning a book is while you are doing the dishes." And this person is the world's best-selling fiction author of all the time, also referred to as the Queen of Crime. And her name is Agatha Christie. She is the queen of murder mysteries. Some of you may have read her or watched some of her movies, such as The Death on the Nile or The Murder on the Orient Express. And here is a picture of her in her kitchen, not doing the dishes, but doing something very similar. So what happens in your brain when you are doing the dishes? In her case, and in the case of many other people, this leads to something that is called optimal boredom. You are doing an automatic activity, so your brain is kind of free-flowing in a dream stage, but you are not overwhelmed, you are not too concentrated on that activity. and it can lead to a daydream-like stage. A more scientific way to explain it is called default mode network, when this part of this inner back part of your brain, as also highlighted there, is kind of start interacting with the rest of the brain and literally start firing information back and forth, and you might come up with a creative insight, such as who is your murderer. Unfortunately, now we have these amazing dishwashing machines, so we are not really doing the dishes anymore by hand. But what most modern humans can relate to is that we often have creative outbursts while we are showering. Why while we are showering? Does anyone have a clue? There is a hand. Do you want to tell me? Yeah, that's a great idea. Anyone else? No. There is a hand. Fantastic. Exactly. Thank you so much. You are also very right. It helps relax your muscles, and so your brain frees up a little bit. But most importantly, you cannot bring your phone. You cannot listen to anything because also the water is very loud, and that is a fantastic atmosphere for daydreaming. And I think the Earth faces many problems. One of them is the disappearing of boredom, because right now we have a distraction device at all the time with us. Some people do not really experience boredom anymore. We take that phone with us to the toilet, we listen to podcasts when we are running, we are listening to podcasts when we are doing the dishes. One of the only last remaining places is literally the shower. So what I would encourage you to do is to be bored sometimes. Don't listen to music because you tend to sing along. Don't listen to a podcast. Just let your brain daydream. The second lever I want to talk about is explore. Again, it is a very, very fun activity. And let me start again with a famous quote. Creativity is just connecting things. This is said by the founder of the world's most valuable company, also called as the I-Man. Some of you might know, this is Steve Jobs. And apart from building the world's most valuable companies, he did have many, many hobbies. For instance, he loved calligraphy, which I didn't know what it was, but apparently it is by writing very, very nicely. He liked meditation, he liked listening to music, he liked reading Shakespeare. So he had a wide range of hobbies. One hobby, though, that he did not have, and that annoys me very, very much when I did my research, is that he did not like taking selfies of himself when he was doing these hobbies. So this is the only picture I found of him where he's having fun, and I'm not even 100% sure it is him. I hope it is him. It might be Ashton Kutcher playing him. Full disclosure. But so what happens in your brain when you are exploring? Again, deep in your brain, deep in this automatic brain, there is something that is called the memory encoding of experiences. And that part of your brain encodes everything. It includes what you hear, what you see, what you smell, what you feel, what you touch, etc., etc. And you may not be able to immediately recall everything that you experienced, but it does get encoded, and it might burst out at various moments in your life. The third lever, when it comes to impacting the automatic brain, and I am sure many of you will love this, is sleep. Here's a quote for that. I woke up one morning and there was this tune in my head. And this comes from the writer of the #1 pop song of the last century, also called a Beatle. And this is Paul McCartney. And what happened is that one morning he woke up and he literally had this tune in his head. He had a piano right next to his bed and he started playing that tune. And he wasn't sure it was his music. So for months, he went around, asked the rest of the Beatles, asked the rest of his music friends, whether this tune belongs to someone else. And everyone told him no. So after months, he just claimed that it is his. And we do believe it is his music. And this music is actually a very famous song we will listen to right now.
Yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away. Now it looks as though they're here to stay. Oh, I believe in yesterday, suddenly.
What I love is that there are two ladies here who are pointing out, I think, what I am saying. And she also pointed out yesterday, which was very beautiful to see from a sign language perspective. So thank you very much for doing that. So here's a picture of Paul McCartney sleeping. I did not want to show his face because I do not think he ever consented of having his picture taken while he's sleeping. So here is instead a picture of the Beatles doing a pillow fight. And that is Paul. So what happens in your brain when you are sleeping? One beautiful thing is, especially during the rapid eye movement sleep, which is called the REM sleep, is that your inner part of your brain completely takes over. So in a way, it shuts down the outer, more conscious part of your brain. So this area, which is beautiful because that area is very critical. So when you are dreaming and you suddenly start flying in your dream, that area can no longer tell, this is not realistic, wake up. That area is shut down. So the inner part of your brain starts imagining these crazy, crazy things happening to you, and you totally believe them. Another thing that happens during REM sleep is, given that you are believing that you are flying, it's important that your body does not react to the event that you are flying. So many of your muscles get paralyzed. So you don't suddenly jump up in bed and start jumping out of the window or something like that. So that's why REM sleep is important. So we just covered the automatic brain. Do the dishes, aka daydream, explore, and sleep. At this point, it may sound like a lot of fun doing creativity, but unfortunately, now we are going to talk about this conscious part of the brain, and this will require a lot more work. So I'm sorry for breaking the illusion of creativity for you in the next 20 minutes. So when it comes to the conscious part of your brain, one key important thing is finding your own voice. And now, normally I start every single new lever with a quote, but instead of that, I want to play a game with you. This is the Guggenheim Museum. This is one of the most important museums in New York, and arguably of the world. And there is this room in the Guggenheim Museum. And what surprised me when I was in this room is that I didn't recognize any of these paintings. And I am a girl from Europe, so I am more used to looking at paintings. At least my parents kind of forced me to do that. And I was shocked that in the Guggenheim, I didn't recognize anything. I didn't understand how is this room in one of the most famous museums on earth, and I cannot recognize anything. Until the moment I read the fine print about this room. So for instance, that painting right there, if we zoom in, it is just a painting of a flower. And I purposefully pixelated out the signature of the artist. And what I want to play with you is that I want to show the self-portrait of this artist throughout time. And if you know who that artist is, just raise your hand. Or if you don't want to participate, that's okay. I am going to raise my hand the moment in time when I would recognize the style and the face of that artist. This is the self-portrait of the artist when he was 15. Age 18, age 20, age 24, age 25. Oh, look at the smart people back there. Oh, you are way smarter than I am. That's amazing. Age 56, here I would start to have a clue. Age 89 and age 90. And at this point, I would be sure already. And so people who are familiar with modern art probably already know that this is Pablo Picasso. And I love this quote from him where he says, "It took me 4 years to paint like Raphael, who is another famous European painter, but it took me a lifetime to paint like a child." And in 8 years, he made 1,500 paintings. That means 200 paintings a year. And so looking back at this picture, this is one of his early works. And if we remove the pixelation, it is a Picasso. Another cool painting, also from this room, is right next door. It is this blue flower. In this case, I want to go backwards. So first, show the impact of this flower, and then how this flower came to be. So let's start with this. This is a government building from the Netherlands. This is a metro station in Moscow. This is a Vogue cover from the 1960s, and this is a Nike shoe from the early 2000s. And the painting that influenced all this is this one. It is a Mondrian painting, and it is called, I forgot the name, something very abstract. I forgot what it was called. Oh, my bad. But probably many of you recognize it, and it has a clear impact in modern design and modern fashion. And the way this painting came to be, it was painted in 1929. 13 years before, there was something like this from the same painter. 1 year before, there was something like this. 1 year before that, there was this painting. I already remember the name of this one. It was called Flowering Apple Tree, which I don't know if you can see the flowering apple tree in there, but it kind of does look like a tree. 1 year before, there was the gray tree. 1 year before that, there was the red tree. Here we can already tell that this is a tree. And 1 year before that, there was this flower. So it took this painter 20 years to find the style that eventually impacts architecture and fashion up until this day. So what does it mean for the creator economy? There is one creator. He has 84 million followers on TikTok right now, and similarly crazy numbers on YouTube and on Instagram. And let me show you his very first video. I am going to speed it up. I removed the voice just to make my point. This is a Final Cut Pro editing software video where he explains how to edit with this software. And you can see he's going through the color wheel, etc., etc. 17 years and 1,000 videos later, he posted this one. He posted the most viral TikTok of all times that was watched by 2.4 billion people. And I'm sure many of you know this creator. His name is Zach King. One other cool example that doesn't really have to do with a person is that 21 years, 1 month, and 1 day ago, a company was introduced to the world. That was Valentine's Day in 2005, and the slogan of this company was "Tune in and hook up." Not a very subtle slogan. Does any of you know which company it was? It is very, very related to the creator economy. No one. I didn't know it either. I only know it because of this research. I think they are kind of trying to bury this information. This company is YouTube. YouTube started off as peer finding or like romantic partner finding website, but eventually they found their voice and they became the biggest video platform of all time. So this is about the conscious part of the brain for finding your own voice. The next thing is that I want to talk about is stealing like an artist. So pure originality does not exist. And here I am going to demonstrate with a number of examples. One of the coolest examples I found is this quote. I steal from every single movie ever made. Great artists steal. And this comes from a multiple Oscar-winning filmmaker. I did not find a cool nickname for him, so let's just reveal him. He's Quentin Tarantino. And I'm going to show you every single thing, not every single thing, the major things he stole. This is Leonardo DiCaprio dying in a Quentin Tarantino movie from 2012 that was completely inspired by an Italian movie 40 years before. The famous Pulp Fiction dance is an exact copy of another Italian movie 30 years prior to that. Quentin Tarantino said so. And the famous Uma Thurman dress in Kill Bill is actually a famous dress from Bruce Lee himself. Probably one of the biggest influences and one of the biggest creative outputs of the US history of media that Quentin Tarantino stole from is coming from the Flintstones, where he stole this visualization from Vilma herself. So one of the biggest creators that steals like an artist, and I think he does it very well, is Mr. Beast. And let me demonstrate that through a couple of examples. So the videos that he does, for instance, Man versus Woman Survive in the Wilderness for $500,000, is very much inspired by shows like The Survivor, Fear Factor, and Big Brother. Other videos, such as the Squid Game in real life, is obviously very much inspired by Squid Game itself. And Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory is obviously inspired by the Willy Wonka movie. He also gets inspiration from other creators, such as the world's most expensive flight actually was created 7 years prior to that by Casey Neistat, who is a New York-based logger. So what's important when stealing like an artist is that you are not copying frame by frame everything out there. You look out what works already in the world, and you take the coolest ideas that you like and you put your own spin to those ideas. And so the final lever when it comes to this conscious mind is killing your darlings. And again, a famous quote, "I have enough material in the vault to release an album every year for the next 100 years. And this comes from a person who invented his own musical sound, also called as the Prince of Pop or Prince himself. And he does actually has a vault. This is a real picture of his vault. And there are literally several hundreds of music behind closed doors that he has fully produced but never released. So if we run the numbers, Prince wrote about 2,000 songs in his lifetime. He released 120 of them, so he killed 94% of his darlings. And out of those 120 released, 5 made it to Billboard #1, so about 0.2% of his work. What it really means is that it's important to say goodbye to whatever doesn't work. And what it also means is that you need a large number of output to make a Billboard #1. So don't be disheartened if whatever you do at first is not going to work out. So when it comes to content creation, a cool example for this is Drew Binsky. He has 7 million followers. He traveled, I think, to all countries of the world, and he creates travel content. And here is a cool video of him talking about his ideation and how many of his ideas actually make it to YouTube videos.
Well, I have like a spreadsheet of like thousands of ideas that I try to break down by region. On this spreadsheet, I probably will only shoot like 5 to 10% of these videos.
So we couldn't hear it well enough, but he creates 1,000 video ideas, out of which he makes 50 videos. Another big creator is the Diary of the CEO, Steven Bartlett. He has 15 million followers. And just 2 days ago, he created this cool LinkedIn post about it, that he deletes 20% of all his already made podcast videos. What it means is that he flies out the guest, he introduces the guest, they cut the footage, so the video is ready, and that's when he realizes that, oh, this is probably not going to work, and he decides to kill his darlings. And so we went through the levers to impact also this conscious part of the brain, which is a lot more work. As mentioned, it requires finding your own voice, it requires stealing like an artist, and it requires kill your darlings. And now you might be thinking, oh, you want to be in the first group, the guys who sleep, the guys who go and explore, the guys who just get bored a little bit. Unfortunately, it does not work like that. So for instance, I mentioned Agatha Christie for doing the dishes, Steve Jobs for exploring, and Paul McCartney for sleeping. The truth is that they did all the other activities that I just mentioned. They did put in the hard work. So I could have eagerly quoted Agatha Christie for killing her darlings. She wrote romantic novels, she wrote travel novels, adventure novels, but eventually what clicked for her were mystery novels. So she had to kill everything else to focus on mystery. When it comes to explore, Steve Jobs, I could have also quoted him for stealing like an artist, because this is a quote that comes from him. Good artists copy, great artists steal, just like Quentin Tarantino. And when it comes to sleep, Paul McCartney, the same song that I mentioned came into his mind while he was sleeping yesterday. The story is that only the melody came into his mind while he was sleeping, but not the lyrics. So he really had to find his voice. He really had to find the lyrics for that song. And here is a hilarious example of how yesterday, what was the lyrics originally of yesterday, and we will listen to it together.
Scrambled eggs.
The #1 pop song of the last century, everyone. So you really have to put in the hard work. This is the number of years that all the artists or creative minds mentioned found something that finally works. This is not the number of years when they reached global icon status. If they stopped at these years, we wouldn't really know their names. So for instance, in the case of Mr. Beast, it took him 5 years of constantly posting videos that something went viral. If he stopped there, no one in this room would know who he was. And get ready, this is the number of years that took them to reach the iconic status where they are right now. So the numbers become way crazier. I can be debated, of course. In the case of Steve Jobs, I put 25 years because, in my opinion, really what elevated Apple was the release of the iPhone that came decades after Apple was founded. So when you see an overnight success like Harry Styles, for him it took 1 year, it's a completely different story. It's not the same mechanism. And the reason why it is not the same mechanism for something like Harry Styles is because he had X Factor behind him, which is this big media company in the UK. So he had to, One Direction, I don't know if everyone knows that, this boy band, they didn't have to find their own voice. They were given the lyrics, they were given the dresses, they only had to perform it. And I'm not trying to take away from their success. I think what they did is absolutely amazing. I'm just saying that all that time, all that creativity time that people typically have to go through without help was severely reduced in their case to simply 1 year. So here are all the levers that we discussed when it comes to the conscious and automatic brain. The automatic was do the dishes. The automatic was do the dishes, daydream, explore, sleep, find your voice, still like an artist, and kill your darlings. And so in this final few minutes of my session, I would just like to sequence it for you of how it all comes together as a process in your brain. As a first step, you should explore. So your brain has a bunch of inputs that later on it can use to connect them together. Then you should sleep. So in your brain makes the connections of these various experiences and memories. Then you should daydream. So it can reach your consciousness as you are washing the dishes, taking a shower, going for a walk, etc., etc. And this covers this inner part, this more automatic part of the brain. And then the hard work starts. Then you should still, like an artist, you should look out on the world and see what works already and start trying to replicate that. You should find your voice based on what you see is already working. You should replicate it and really make it your own. And then finally, you should kill your darlings, not release whatever you think is not going to work. And if you do it long enough, the theory is that eventually you will be able to create something magical. And in case it is magical enough, it might reach many other people, and that creativity output may become the exploration of many other people, and it will trigger whole new rounds in the minds of other people. So with that, I know that my session is not really a creative output, but I would like to walk you through my creative process of how I put this together. When it comes to exploration, I did visit this Guggenheim Museum back in 2019. Obviously, this was way before I knew I am going to give this session. And obviously, I was very shocked that I didn't recognize any of these paintings. And those 2 paintings are right there that we just discussed. And here, for sleeping and daydreaming, I wanted to show a cool visual of how I went running in Austin and how I had a great night of sleep last night. However, unfortunately, British Airways ruined that for me because I took off from London and 4 hours into our flight, they flew us back to London. So I'm even happy I made it to this session. So this is my visual for that. But typically I do sleep and I do go for runs that allow me to daydream. I am not listening to podcasts during there. Then for still like an artist, back in 2023, I was in Boulder, Colorado, in this beautiful national park, and I went to a Ritter bookstore where I read a book that is literally titled Still Like an Artist. So I took all the ideas regarding Still Like an Artist from that book, and I would really recommend you to actually read it. Finally, finding your own voice. Some of you may have seen sessions of me before. You can probably tell that I really like the color pink in my dresses. But trust me, I did go through an evolution. Back in 2023, I used to wear black. So it may not sound like the biggest evolution of all time, but it is my own little evolution. And finally, when it comes to killing your darlings for this specific session at South by Southwest, I wrote 6 proposals. I submitted 2. South by Southwest killed 1, and 1 survived, and this is the one right here. So I hope that my process of putting this presentation together impacts the people here. I hope you experience it as a little bit of a magic that will serve you as a trigger element in the future that might lead to your own creative work. And if you feel like that is the case, I would really love you if you would give me feedback through the South by Southwest app, or you can follow me on various social media networks. Thank you very much.